Welcome, everyone. I'm Professor Capko, and we've got a very special guest with us today, and he's going to tell us all about mortgages. And we're going to get to him, but first, I want to say I believe something awesome is about to happen for you. So be on the lookout for it. And now back to the video. As I mentioned, I've got a really special guest for us today. We're joined by Andrew Webb Jr., who knows everything you could possibly want to know about mortgages. I love this guy. I've known him for what, 12 years? We've known each other, Andrew?
Absolutely.
And I'll let him make an introduction of himself here in a moment, but he's just an awesome guy. And I'm so glad that I met him. And you can tell him how we met. How did we meet, Andrew?
Oh, Professor Capko, what a great intro. Thank you. So we met back when I was in college. You were
Oh,
my mathematics professor, one of the many hats that you wear, and it was amazing to be under your tutelage, if that's the way you want to put it. But yeah, my wife and I were able to experience education under your class. So that was awesome.
you and your wife are two of my favorite students.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
well, go ahead
Appreciate
and
that.
introduce yourself. Give us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So my name is Andrew Webb, as you mentioned. I'm a mortgage loan officer licensed here in Florida and can help people in all 50 states. But I entered this industry with a passion of finance and helping people. The two things. I have a previous background in healthcare, which is how we met, getting ready to go into the healthcare space, and took that passion of helping people and also the passion of finance and kind of the acuity toward numbers and things like that, and put them all together. And now we're helping people with their home financing. So that's how I got into the industry. And 4 years in, going on 5 pretty soon. I'm loving it, enjoying it.
That is awesome. Now, you are a direct lender, is my understanding, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
so why would someone come see you as a direct lender as opposed to, say, going to the bank?
That's a great question. So lending is all we do, right? For banks, they do a lot of mortgages, a lot of financing, but it's almost just a small portion of what a bank institution is designed to do. So, like anything else, if it's not your main focus, it may not be the most talented thing you're good at. Whereas for us as a direct lender, and particularly the lender I work for, being the largest direct lender in the country, it's all we do, and so we're really good at it. And we can go into the different reasons, but ultimately, we'll talk about some of the misconceptions, some of the things that you may be afraid of, and all of those things get a lot easier when you work with a direct lender who's basically perfected the mortgage process, if you were to say that.
Well, with your expertise, what would you say the most important thing going on right now in the mortgage world?
Well, the big elephant in the room, I guess, would be interest rates, and how inflation, which we're all feeling, has affected those the interest rates. And to be relevant to right now, the Fed's cutting the federal rate and how it's impacted mortgage rates. That's probably the biggest thing in the industry right now. Also, you look at 1942 and its relation to the World War and how home prices went up during that time really quick because of all the veterans coming back and needing housing and looking for a home of their own. And it caused a high demand, and home prices went up like crazy and then stayed there, never went back down, and continued the normal trend since then. That happened again during COVID. And so now that's another aspect of what's going on, is that home values have appreciated so fast, and it doesn't look like they're going to, go back down to where they were pre-COVID for sure. So interest rates are big because affordability is an issue now, and interest rates definitely help when they're coming down to improve affordability. That's probably the biggest thing going on right now in the mortgage world.
Okay. Do you think the interest rates will continue to go down, or what do you see in that regard?
Absolutely. So, mortgage debt, if you would, or a mortgage loan is a long-term debt. And so it's very sensitive to inflation. And so what happens is if inflation's out of control, lenders need to make sure the money they're lending out for the next 30 years is going to come back at a profit that's acceptable based on inflation forecasts. So the Feds have been trying to attack this inflation lately, and to keep it simple, now that that's under control, we see mortgage rates softening and coming down. The bonds are coming down. And so, yeah, we have more of that to do because inflation, as there's more confidence that inflation is now under control, mortgage rates will respond accordingly.
Okay, that's good news. That's really good news, especially if the housing prices don't come down equally.
Right.
So one way
Right.
to make payments more affordable. What are some of the options that people have in the mortgage world?
Wow, that's a great question. I'll try to pin it down to maybe
Sure.
three. One option is if you're not a home buyer or a homeowner, and you'd like to be, you're paying rent. There are several programs out there that are available for you. And to be specific, there are different loan types and then programs for each loan type. So there are conventional loans. If we're going to go at a high level, conventional loans are your traditional mortgages, the most common type in America. Then you have government loans like VA, FHA, USDA. Those programs are specific to folks that either need a little more flexibility for VA, for veterans, and then USDA for people looking to live in more rural areas. For all of those programs, there are different types of benefits available to first-time home buyers. So if you're looking at buying a home for the first time, you've got an opportunity to utilize those programs and some of the assistance that's available to help you get into home ownership for the first time. For someone that is, for the second thing, for someone that is an experienced home buyer, there are different things that you can do to make the transition from your current home to the next one, financially beneficial, if you would. There are things that you can do to get creative that I can help you with to basically facilitate getting a lower interest rate, things like that help with that transition. Because a lot of people, Professor Capko, they've got these very low interest rate mortgages that they've had, and these are existing homeowners, and they're afraid to let go of it because of the pain of going from say a 1.99% or 2.99%, whatever they have from COVID, to say a 4.5%, 5.5%, 6%, 6.5% rate. But there are things, there are programs that are out there that are available, some mortgage options that are available for them. And then, as I mentioned, when it comes to your career, there are also programs for someone that is in the healthcare space, or like I mentioned, a veteran, law enforcement, public sector. There are programs available for those folks as well, first-time home buyer or not. So there's three different, kind of options out there for someone looking to explore mortgage options for the first time or a repeat time.
And you'd be able to help people with these options and determine which is best for
Absolutely.
them? Okay,
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yep.
Well, that's great. I noticed that you've got a background there, the Home Loan Drew. You've got a
Absolutely.
program.
Yeah. There is.
Tell us about that.
Home Loan Drew, this is kind of my branding on social media. Again, you mentioned something in talking with you earlier. It's just keeping it simple, right? And so I wanted people to have a trusted source for home lending advice, and that's my kind of my motto on my YouTube channel. And so keeping it simple. I'm Drew, and this is what I talk about: home loans. And so that's the thought here. And I built the studio here because my goal as a loan officer is not just to help real estate agents facilitate mortgage transactions for their customers, but also educate the public and those online as to the mortgage process and the many different options and circumstances that they have.
That's awesome. That's really good. And I'll put a link down in the description to your YouTube channel, and go ahead and make sure you give Home Loan Drew a subscription there.
Hey,
He's
thanks. Yeah.
got a lot of knowledge there. Now, going back to what you were talking about, the options, you mentioned first-time home buyers. First of all, let me ask kind of this maybe is a stupid question, but I've always wondered, what is technically the definition of a first-time home buyer? Does it mean they've never, ever, ever owned a home before, or it's just been a long time? Or tell us
Question.
what the requirements are for that.
Right. So it's kind of a deceiving question in a way because it's first time home buyer. You think, well, if I owned a home 10 years ago, I'm not a first time home buyer anymore. And that is actually not true. So if you have not owned a property under your name in the last 3 years, you are now considered a first time home buyer again.
No
So
kidding. Wow,
absolutely. Yeah. So
that's
someone
news
that
to me.
purchased a home. Right. I mean, if you've owned a home, say you owned a home prior to the pandemic, and you sold it when the home values went up, and now you've been renting, and we're coming up on 3 years from some of that time frame, you would be able to benefit from some of the first time home buyer opportunities out there. So technically, yeah, you can absolutely do that. And to be specific, you're a veteran, and so I want to mention this for the many veterans out there that we appreciate so much. Um, if you have used your VA benefit before and sold the home or had some rough times. A lot of people, a lot of veterans were impacted by 2008 and the crash of the real estate market. And they think that they're not able to take advantage of their VA first time home buyer, if you would, benefit. You absolutely can, even if you did have a foreclosure or a short sale. So just another misconception out there that I find to be quite popular, that is actually a lot more flexible than folks think.
Wow, that's an amazing thing to know because I had no idea. I thought first time meant first time. That's it. Never could have
Right.
owned a home in your. That's really good news. If you are a first time home buyer, either one who haven't had one for a long time, or you're truly maybe just coming out of school or just whatever, and you want to buy that first home, you've been renting. What should a first time home buyer do to prepare for to get a mortgage?
That's a great question. So the first thing, honestly, is starting the conversation with a lender. And of course, I encourage you to reach out to me because I love planning. I always say planning, no pressure, right? Some environments, lending environments, are high pressure, high sales. And really, as a first-time home buyer, you just need a little planning when you're looking to get into this for the first time. If you're in school, it's definitely a great time if you're not slammed with all the books and everything, right? But in that extra spare time when you're looking to investigate this journey or this plan for the future of buying a home, definitely start planning. And how someone would do that is get in touch with me, and we're basically going to go into some of the basics. Savings, assets. How much do you need to have to purchase a home? How much skin in the game do you need to have available, if any? Right? There's opportunities, as I mentioned. Credit is a big one, and really early on, especially for our younger folks, early on is it's very important that you understand how your credit works and how you can optimize your credit for a future home purchase when that time comes. And then, of course, employment. Looking at your scenario, and this is kind of Professor Capko, this is kind of a case by case discussion or analysis. Because say, for example, you have someone that's in school and then they come out of school and they get their first job for their new career. They're in many cases, they're actually eligible to obtain a mortgage right away, even before they start at the new position, as
Really?
long as they have, absolutely, as long as they have a job offer letter, it's solid, there's no contingencies. We as lenders can approve them based on the income that they're going to be receiving. So this is huge because a lot of people end up paying rent for 2 years under this misconception that you have to have 2 years of employment history, when we can use your education history as the employment history.
Look, I do a lot of stuff in finance and in business, as you know, with this channel. I was unaware of that. I thought you got to be there 2 years. You got to have a solid long-term, employment history. That is such good news. I know a
It's
lot of
great news.
people that don't know that, and they're going to take advantage of that. That's
Absolutely. It's great. It's
really good.
fantastic. Fantastic. No need to wait. In the healthcare space, I work with a lot of nurses, for example, respiratory therapists, things like that. And this is a great opportunity for them because they're coming out with great jobs, great solid income, very reliable income. We're going to help them to buy a home if that's their desire right away, as soon as they graduate and obtain that first job. Very cool.
Wow, that is good news. What if you're a current homeowner now and you need to apply for a mortgage? And you mentioned there's some things you could do to help them because maybe they have a low mortgage rate now.
Right.
What are what
Right.
are what are some things a current homeowner can do?
There's a lot of great things that a current homeowner can do. When you look at the fact that they own a home, likely if they own the home prior to the pandemic, and again, the world has changed so much in real estate since the pandemic, which is why I keep referring to it. But if you own a property prior to the pandemic, you likely have a record, historically record high amount of equity. And so what do you do with that? And there's many things you can do. You may obtain a second mortgage, right? You may want to access that equity to make other investments, improvements, consolidate debt, things like that. But if you do end up wanting to tap into that, then someone would reach out, and we've got access to different products and programs, as I mentioned earlier, to where we can access that equity to help you buy another home, to help you again do some of the things that I just mentioned. If you were to just wanted to depart from that residence and move to a new home, you absolutely can do that. And what we'll do is we'll get you approved for the new home, subject to you selling the old property. And there's even ways that we can help you do it without or before you sell the old property, still utilizing the equity from your old property to the new one. So not to get too technical, but there are a lot of great options for someone that owns a home and wants to obtain their next mortgage.
That's refreshing, because I know that's a fear a lot of people have. It's like, well, do I have to sell my house and then maybe not be able to find anything? Or yeah, that's a huge fear.
Yeah.
And I know it's keeping a lot of people from moving, and that's keeping the houses off the market, because some people who want to move aren't because of that. So
Right.
that is good news. What would
Absolutely.
what would you say is the biggest misconception about the mortgage industry?
Wow. So I had a rough experience with the mortgage process back when I worked in healthcare before being in this industry. And I'd say one of the biggest misconceptions is that it's a rough, stressful process. It's just, it's underwriting. You hear that, it's almost like a bad word, a swear word or something. And it doesn't have to be. And what I've realized is it absolutely isn't, as long as you're working with, number one, a loan officer who's dedicated to making sure everything goes smoothly. And then number two, working with a lender that has great operational capacity, great abilities, very flexible, all right, flexible underwriting, good culture towards finding a way to get your goal in homeownership done versus finding a way to not do it. And those things are what are going to change the experience. So the idea that the mortgage process is super stressful and is drawn out, it's not necessarily the case. For example, briefly, I'll tell you, I have a file right now they applied on Saturday. First of all, was able to apply on Saturday and speak to me on Saturday, right? That's always a pain, waiting till Monday or banking hours, right? So we were
That's
able
when
to do
people are
that.
looking at houses, right? Open houses on
That's
Saturday.
it. That's it. And they need an answer right away. They want a dream, and let's answer the call, right? So that, and then of course, was able to get. Actually, I think the contract is going to be landed today. So less than 1 week from the time that they applied, we actually received an underwriting approval before they even got under contract. That's a new thing. That takes away all of the mystery of will I get approved or not. So we have a fast track program that we can put folks through to make it easier. And then here she is going to purchase her home, and then hopefully in the next few weeks close on it, and really just kind of be sitting back waiting on the appraisal. And otherwise, there's no real scary part about it. So just one example of the many where it can be very, very smooth and painless. And planning, as you mentioned earlier, what can someone do to get a head start on this? Planning makes the headaches go away. The expectations are there, and it'll be a smooth process.
Very good. Wow, that's some great news. That's People have got to be excited about that, because it's totally different than what people think it's going to be. I know that I have some misconceptions there that you've just cleared up. And you've probably hit on this already, but just, because I know you're busy and I just want to wrap it up here in a moment, but what would be the top three mortgage tips that you have for us?
I mentioned it earlier, and I'll drive it home again. Making sure that your credit, your assets, and your employment history are all ironed out when you're looking to get into any mortgage process, any mortgage application. Those three things are very important. So my tip would be, before you make do any investigation, kind of like in the healthcare space where we always frowned on people going on Google and trying to diagnose themselves, right? and trying to figure it out on their own. The tip I would say is reach out to me, and let's have a conversation about those three things. Make sure that your credit is optimized, and we'll look at that. And there's things you can do to improve it. I have software that I have access to free of charge that allows me to simulate scenarios with your credit, take your existing credit profile and simulate what would happen to your credit scores if you were to pay something down or pay something off or add a credit card or two, or to make to optimize your credit. So looking at that ahead of time, giving yourself 6 months to 12 months. You don't have to. We can do it in a month. But point is, giving yourself plenty of time to prepare with credit is huge. And then, of course, with assets, sometimes you have a goal, but you don't have the savings. You're not quite there yet. or you're saving like crazy when you don't have to, because there may be a program out there that's able to benefit you, that'll take care of that down payment for you. So that's a big one, is making sure that your assets are in line, and planning those in advance. And then, of course, employment, like we talked about, making sure that your income situation is going to be acceptable to the lending guidelines. And there are many different ways to look at income, depending on if you're self-employed or W-2 employee, or that type of thing. Variable pay, a lot of nurses or travel nurses, things like that, for example. And so those folks need a little more flexibility. Having that conversation ahead of time, well in advance, to figure that out is going to help you. Those are the three big things I want people to focus on as far as tips to the mortgage process.
Very nice. I think one thing that's coming through clearly to me is not to wait, not to say, well, I may want to buy a house down the road. Go ahead and get in contact with you now, right? You can start working with someone ahead of time and get them on track. So when they're ready and they find that house, it's then a quick process.
Quick and simple, painless.
That's right. That is awesome. This has been a great conversation. Would you be willing to do it again sometime?
I'd love to. And that's what I've been dedicated to, Professor Capko. I am all about educating folks on the possibilities of real estate, because remember, real estate is the #1 wealth building tool for the average American here in the United States. In fact, even amongst those who are very wealthy, right? Real estate is usually a big part of what makes them that successful. And so there's access to it. Because of all the exciting programs out there, there's so much access to it for the average person. You know, I consider myself an average person, and knowing all of the different tools out there helps me to have access to not just a property of my own, but maybe investment properties and things like that. So I would love to come back and be able to talk again about some of the more specific opportunities there are, and aspects of the mortgage opportunity that's available to everyone.
Yeah, I definitely like even the investment part. That we can make a whole section on that. I would love to learn about that. But it truly is the American dream. You're helping people live the American dream, and that doesn't surprise me. When I met you and you were in my class and you were an outstanding student, this guy's going somewhere. That's what I knew, and I knew you were going to help people. I knew that that's what it's about, and like you and I discussed earlier, that's the best part of what I do every day, is helping people
sure do
live their own dreams. How do people get in touch with you?
Thank you. So there are a few ways. I'm on social media as Home Loan Drew on Instagram, on YouTube, Home Loan Drew channel. You certainly can reach out there, DM me. My direct number is available for everyone. And that's one of the things that before I was in the industry, I didn't like, is I always had an office number and, or, had to get in touch with someone and wait in the response. I allow everyone to have access to my cell. So my cell number is 407-490-6448. And you can text that number 24/7. Doesn't mean I'll respond at 2 a.m, but I will respond as soon as possible. That number is available for you 24/7. Call during business hours. I don't mind. I'll definitely give you a shout back. Those are two primary ways to get a hold of me. Of course, you can email me at andrew.webb. That's with 2 B's, WEBB, at CCM, short for crosscountrymortgage.com. So andrew.webb at ccm.com.
Awesome. And you have your YouTube channel, of course, which we'll link down below. This has been a great day. This is wonderful. Any last thing you want to say, and then we'll wrap up? Or
I encourage you to. I have just, my life has been so greatly impacted by real estate. And I think one of the things I always tell all the folks that I work with in the industry is, you see a lot of us in the industry going out there and talking about buying homes and all that stuff. And it can almost come off as salesy, but it's, for me, I do this, same reason you do it, Professor Capko, is you witness how what we know and what we're able to help facilitate helps people in such extraordinary ways, right? From the young person who's looking to, build their investment portfolio at a very young age, to a person who's in retirement and is now able to live completely mortgage free, right? Because they owned a property. They made a decision early in life to get get involved in owning real estate. So I'm excited to continuously put out this information and to do just what you're doing here on your channel, which is educating people. And I won't be stopped to do it, from doing it, because I've seen how it benefits people, and it truly changes, again, generational wealth for everyone that's brave enough to go out and do it. So my encouragement would be to don't be scared of the process, reach out, plan early, and get involved early as possible. But if it's later in life, don't worry, you can still get involved. I've helped people do that. It's never too late to invest in yourself.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Andrew, Home Loan Drew. And I hope to talk to you again very soon. For those of you out there, please subscribe, and also subscribe to Home Loan Drew, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Now, go make it an awesome day. Thank you.